Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's version of This, Not That. I'm Lisa Connor with Lisa Connor Consulting, and I help businesses pan the gold mine of their existing leads and customers to increase revenue, retain more clients, and get more referrals. And my co host is Anka Herman. Good morning, Anka.
I'm delighted to be here again with you. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for being here. And it's not morning, and I do that every time. It's evening there, but I am in morning mode, so habit. So, this is the third of a three-part series where we've been talking about how to get more leads from get more sales from your existing leads and customers. And so, in the first segment, we really talked about how to increase connection, how to get back in front of those people that have said no. And I threw out the statistic that is one of my favorites. And now I think it's one of Anka's favorites too, which is 97% of people that come into your ecosphere are not ready to buy. That means you're selling to the top to 3% of those people, and then the other 97% just kind of go off into a folder that you never deal with again most of the time. And so that is a literal gold mine. And so reconnecting with those people in a way that isn't obnoxious or salesy is a really important tactic. So go back and listen to that episode if you missed it. And then the second episode or the second part of this is where we really talked about adding value and reminding people who you are, what you do, and how you can help them. And so that's also a really powerful episode. And Anka really dove into some information about the customer journey and mapping that out. And so we'll probably talk a little bit about that today. And then today's episode, I really thought it would be a good topic to talk about customizing your relationship with the people that you're trying to bring into your sales system. And a lot of times, especially in today's world with social media, we feel like a number. I don't know if you felt like that, Anka, but I definitely have, especially when I get those spammy LinkedIn messages from somebody who doesn't know me, doesn't know anything about my business, and wants to sell me their services. And and
Don't even get me started on those.
and nobody wants to be treated like a number. And that's really kind of become the norm for most marketing. But there are some really specific ways that you can get clear about connecting with people based on the knowledge that you can gather from them, which was part two of this series. So if you missed that, go back and listen to part two. But when you can deliver specific content to them based on the information that they've shared with you, you become really powerful in their world because not only are you addressing their specific concerns, but you're also talking to them at a level that makes them realize you are listening. And that is such a rarity in today's world from anyone that anyone's listening to anyone that you will immediately get their attention. So Anka, what would you add to this as far as creating a personal connection with people through your marketing?
I think relevance is the word that jumps to mind, right? Because people don't mind being sold to or consuming content if they feel it's relevant to them, right? And I think what a lot of people do in their attempt of to get their stuff in front of as many people as possible, they end up shoving a lot of stuff down people's throat that you certainly don't feel is relevant, right? And I would like to invite people to almost take it to the other extreme and see what would happen if you just flip this around. And I've seen this in action when I've supported some really cool people's launches. And when you look at how they do it, is they track very closely who interacts with what, right? So apart from how to capture information, what we already talked about, how you can get people to tell you stuff, you can also see what people interact with. And so basically there is a whole launch sequence of emails, but the actual offer is only shared with the people who have interacted with a certain number of emails. That means if you're not indicating an interest, you never even get to see the offer. It's almost you have to, as a potential client, you have to earn the right to see the offer, right?
Right.
And I think that shift around is really powerful, because then you might just offer it to a fraction of the people, but the percentage of those people who will receive that offer with open arms is, way higher than if you just blast it out to everyone who doesn't want to know about it.
Exactly. And I think the same thing can be said for people's websites. I've been to so many websites where the offer is like slamming you in the face as soon as you get there, which is and it's, to me, it's comical because I think the people that create these websites, I'm like, they don't even know you yet. It's the epitome of like walking onto a car lot and somebody picking out your car and telling you you're going to drive home with this. Well, no, I don't want that kind of car. I want this kind of car, but they don't even bother to ask. But then the other problem that I see with a lot of websites is people design their website to talk to people as though they're all at the same starting point. And that's not necessarily the case. You may have somebody, and I really see this with larger businesses. They have everybody coming in, and the killer on a website to me, the kicker that most people fall into, is they use so much industry language that a customer comes and they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But they don't want to feel dumb. And so they're not going to admit that they don't know what they're talking about. Instead, they just sort of wander around or they just walk away. And
They're just
so
going to feel it's not relevant. So they're just going to close that tab so fast that you never get a chance to even, see something different.
exactly. And so when you can humanize everything you have set up in your marketing for a specific person, which Anka and I are both really, I don't want to say, I guess, adamant or big fans of getting really clear about who it is you're talking to. But you can not only clarify your message for that person, but I think where people drop the ball is they don't clarify it for, like, so if you're going after course creators, for example, not every course creator is starting at the same point. And so creating space in your marketing and clarifying the message so that it connects with them where they are on their journey is really powerful. And I think that's where we drop the ball. So a lot of times is somebody, for example, if we're just going back to lead generation, and we have 97% of people who didn't buy, well, there's a reason they didn't buy. And it could be that the messaging or the offer or whatever it was you put in front of them, they're not ready for, or they're beyond that. And so if you have an additional offer that they can plug into, but they don't know about it, they're just going to walk away and find somebody else. But if instead you can pick up on, okay, they don't need this, elementary offer, and whether you provide where the next step for them or somebody, when you become a value to them and you can introduce them to that option, they will always remember who you are.
That is so true. I think there's so much fear and scarcity around that. Oh my God, if I send them to the competition, right? I don't know. It's not my experience. Like my experience that people will remember you, and they will remember you as really knowledgeable and helpful, and they may buy from the other person or they may not, right? So I don't ever think, I can't remember one single example where I might have pointed somebody in the direction of somebody else where I would have later thought, oh, I was hoping they'd work with me, right? So it just doesn't happen. And if they thought the other person is a better fit, well then great. There's so many people that you could potentially help. And if you look at your business model, you don't need 50,000, right? So it's like you don't have to cling to just out of fear that somebody will take clients away. And I think there's also this idea of, there's always this idea of there isn't enough volume, there isn't enough people who are going to get to see it. And I think, and I don't know, like I do understand that people struggle with this idea of being more concrete and more specific, because it feels like, oh my God, but there's so many less people, right?
Yeah.
But I've experienced it in my own, in my own bones almost, like to say, well, the moment you get more specific, it's almost like the door's open because people can hear you.
Yeah.
And I think you want to be specific. because then you can be more relevant, and that's the bit that makes all the difference.
Well, and you stand out from the noise. Like the more the advice that I've been given and that I give often is get get specific till it hurts, really is really,
Yeah,
because
and
then at that
yeah.
point you're probably specific enough.
I mean, see, I have a really surprisingly clear guideline for that. It's when somebody tells me about who they work with, the moment I can think of a person,
Mm-hmm.
I know you're onto something. If I'm like, oh yeah, mums, whatever, that's half the book,
Yeah.
So that's not helpful. But the moment somebody speaks to something and I'm go, oh, you should talk to so and so,
Yeah.
I know you've got something, because then you can see already how it happens, because then that introduction is just literally 1 second away, right?
Yeah.
But if I can't grasp that this is actually what you do and this is actually who you help, well, I'm not going to make a fool out of myself and recommend you or to introduce you to my friends, where I look like a fool if I send them to somebody who isn't relevant, right?
Right.
So, but that's the thing, the moment you can think of, oh, you should talk to Jane, then you're specific enough.
Right. And a couple of things that I just thought of when you were talking about scarcity, and my favorite analogy for scarcity is music. How many artists and types of music are out there? And I know you and I have talked about music, and in my own personal collection, I probably have 5 or 6 different genres, if not more, of music. And then under that are hundreds of different artists. And so if you look at your business that way, that, you are just somebody's perfect tune for what they need right now. And you have songs that you listen to and then, evoke memories from when you were younger and they come back on and you still really enjoy them, but you outgrow different things, but then you come back to it. If you can think of your business that way and the way that you talk to people, is that you're just somebody's perfect tune for where they are right now. And then the other thing that you mentioned was like, you can't really serve 50,000 people. And I really want to talk about this because if you're watching the market and you're watching the industry, you're going to see loud and clear that people want more connection. COVID created this huge disconnect in the world. In fact, I just watched a video from Simon Sinek about COVID-related depression. It was very interesting. Can link it in the show notes. Somebody else in my ecosphere shared it. But that disconnection has caused people to want to have deeper connection with people. And so if you're really trying to go after 50,000 people, say to yourself, can you have a deep connection with 50,000 people? And obviously the answer is no. Like you cannot have a one-on-one connection with people at that level because there's not enough of you to go around. And so I think there's this misnomer that you do have to have all of these people to make money in your business, but you and I both know that isn't the case. Like you could have a good 100 people and be plenty satisfied and make the money that you want to make. But I think people want to reach these big goals because that's what all marketers have told them. And so, of course, that's all relevant to the size of your business. I mean,
and
keep
what
that
you're
in
selling,
mind.
right? Because if you sell a 20-cent kind of item, well, then you need bigger numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a coaching or consulting space, then
Right.
that's a different price point. So you don't need that many people.
And if somebody's selling something for 20 cents, you need to call either one of us immediately. Do not sell anything for 20 cents.
I was just thinking, well, don't call me, I won't buy it.
You need to call us so that we can help you. let me rephrase. So we kind of talked about, you kind of alluded to the power of email, and anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge fan of email marketing. And we kind of alluded to how to cater some of those messages to your audience. And one of the powerful features to do that is tagging your people as they come into your funnel and as they interact. And so both Anka and I do that within our businesses and help people with that. So if that's something that you need help with, or you don't understand or whatever, leave a comment, because that could be maybe something we talk about in a future episode. We could do like a brief overview of it. I have a hair in my eyeball. So getting really strategic with how you categorize people within your email system is really powerful, because then you can cater your messaging, your emails, your promotions, all of the things you have going on to their self-prescribed wants and needs. And so that's really what tagging is. I know people throw around these, again, industry terms, but tagging your people really means you are putting a tag on them in your system to put them into a certain category that they have said, hey, I'm interested in that.
I totally agree. I mean, you can see also, you can even see it on the different platforms, right? Like, it's at the heart of almost every email marketing platform. And I only say almost because MailChimp was kind of there before, and they sort of screwed it up a bit, like they're not. Well, anyway, that's on topic. But so I definitely say, like, you do want to be strategic, because I think the simplicity of it can be a little bit deceiving, right? Because when you think about it, you can just chuck a little label on any number of people, and I've seen some horrific tag structures, right? So you really it makes sense to take a minute to think about it, and how you want to structure your tags, so they become helpful, because I think the simplicity invites a mess. They invite creating a mess if you don't really think about what you're doing. And I think if I was to just give one tip about how to know what tags to use and what to use a tag for, it's, if you look at a group of people who you'll think of assigning a tag to, think about, would you ever want to write an email only to those people with the tags, right? And so there's a classic example that I quite often use when I do virtual events, right? When somebody signs up for an event, obviously they get a tag. So I know that people have signed up for that event. Now, I quite like to give people two tags. One is name of the event, right? And then the other one is name of the event and the date, right? Especially when it's an event that I will run more than once.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see who attended that. So now there's the question. Would I ever want to write an email to anybody who attended the event last Tuesday? Well, hell yes, right? Basically, for example, when I want to send out the recording, for a start, right? So also, if I want to offer something in specific, or want to refer to something that is really relevant to the people who are on that call, because who knows what we talked about. So yes, that makes sense to have as a tag. Do I ever want to send an email to anybody who's ever attended that kind of event? Well, hell yes, right? So now the answer may not always be hell yes, because sometimes people go, oh yeah, I'll do tag, lead magnet. Well, that ain't going to be helpful, right? No. Because anybody, that just means they've signed up for something, which should be a given. If you think about that, they're on your list, so they should have signed up for something. So that's not helpful. Will there ever be a moment where you think, I want to invite anybody who kind of has signed up for a lead magnet?
Right.
Not really, so it's like, that's like, if you don't think about anything else, look at it through that lens, because it'll help you not create tags that just clog up your system, but don't actually help you create, because at the end of the day, the purpose is to create more relevant emails. Right. So that's really the lens to look at it through.
Exactly. And one thing that kind of gets thrown around is people get really confused with segmenting versus tagging. And I don't know if you use segmenting too, but segmenting can be really powerful in that exact event, or in that exact situation, because you may have a segment that is, say, CRM events. And that could be like all of the events that you have that are aligned with customer relationship management, or some kind of event that you have that's in that arena. And then underneath that, you would be tagging every single event with the date of the event and the title of the event. You could have like, the event could be a collaboration with Susie Sue, and the date was December 20th. And so you might do that event again with Susie Sue and do it on January 15th. Well, that's a totally different group of people. And if you start emailing them the same people that you emailed, the same stuff that you emailed the people on the 20th, they're going to be like, what is happening here? And
Yeah.
so
I think
clarifying
segments
all
are
of that
really
out.
powerful. Yeah, because because when you look about like tag is just one little label. There's one thing, so that means they're interested in this or they've done that, so there's just one thing. And segments allow you to combine a bunch of conditions. So you can get even more fine-grained. So I think you put, I don't know whether you want to start there, but it's like the tag is just like, here's your label, you know what the heck they signed up for, or what they attended, or what they clicked on, or what they did, right? And then you can use segments to group a bunch of different, you can say a segment would be anybody who's joined the list since the 20th and who also has the tag newsletter but doesn't have the other tag. So you can get really, really fine-grained, and that's when it gets really fun and powerful.
Yes. And I always like when I talk to people about setting all of this up in their system, because we may have people that are watching that are like, I am already overwhelmed, is to just kind of map out on a piece of paper or on a spreadsheet or a Word doc or whatever works for your brain, the main pillars of your business, and then what you want to do to market around that pillar. And then you can align your tags with that. And sometimes that's going to save you a lot of headache, because right now, I mean, I look at people's systems and they've created tags and you're just like, why'd you tag people with vanilla pudding? Like it's just some random tag. And then you've got to clean all that up. And that can be really overwhelming, because when you go into somebody's their email service provider, and they've got 500 tags and they don't even understand why those tags are there. And then you've got to clean it up. And you might have one person that was tagged with that and then never used again. I mean, there's a lot of cleanup. So it's better to systematize it to begin with, and then use that same system throughout your business, because the
And the
same thing.
naming convention really helps there too, right? Because if you call it event X date and the next one is called date something else, then it gets harder too. So I think you make it easy for yourself if you stick to a certain syntax. That so that when you see your list of tags, they kind of make sense, and you see how, because that's the thing, the simplicity of it, that you can just type anything and whack it onto a contact, makes it really dangerous too, because that's the thing. It's so easy to create a mess. And then when you don't remember what the tag was there for and you remove it, you don't know what you set up, right?
Yeah.
Because, so that's the thing. You want to think that through before you go and wildly tag people.
Well, and document it somewhere, because that's one of the things that I see, even with in my own business. Like I have so much content and such, and I'm sure you do too. So many things that you've created over time or that you partnered with, that you lose track of it. And then you go and you're like, what happened? Like, what is this? Where's this funnel? Like, what's going on with this? Because if you don't track it in some way, shape, or form, and I know you're a big fan of ClickUp. I'm not sure if that's where you track your stuff or not, but find a system like to track it and start now. Because if you're trying to backtrack and figure it out later, it's going to take you so much time to sift through, figure out, like, is it working? Is it broken? Do you need it? Do you even use it anymore? And it's like, it can be so complicated. And rather than like making it so complicated for yourself, just start tracking it from the beginning, and then align your tags with that. So you can just look in one central place and go, oh, this was for this, and here's how I tagged people. And this is where they would go next. And so now we're kind of diving a little bit more deeply into strategy, but that's kind of one of the reasons you need to have somebody on the outside looking at your business, because a lot of times people just are like, oh, throw it all together and let's do it now because we got to get it out the door. And unfortunately, that causes more work for you, more chaos for you. And then there's no real method or to the madness to get back in touch with those people, going back to the 97%, to get them into a different part of your business, of your funnel, of, an affiliate or whatever that might be.
Yeah. And I think also the other part is to kind of, it's the good old thing, like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best one is now. So if you have a mess, just start now to be more conscious around what tags you create, how you name them. Let's just start now.
Yeah.
right? Because I think you don't want to kind of leave now thinking, oh my God, like I've messed it all up and it's all like too late.
Yeah.
Just start
It's
now.
never too late. It's never too late. And both of us are available to help. So like if that's something that's so overwhelming to you, like that's something that we help people with constantly. So so that is a wrap for today. I just wanted to shout out a little bit at the end of the episode. Thank you so much, Anka, for being part of my journey this year. I so much appreciate you. We are going to take a couple weeks off to celebrate the holidays, so we'll be back in January. And in the meantime, we all wish you a very, very happy holiday season and the best of 2023. If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to share it with a friend. Leave your comments or questions in the comments below, and we always look at those and gather intel for future episodes. So if we mention something today that you're like, hey, I want to know more about that, just leave us a comment and let us know, and we'll be happy to take that up in a future episode. Anka,
And so
thank
we
you
can
so
be
much.
more relevant for you. So,
Yeah,
like walk our talk. Well, happy holidays. And thank you, Elisa, for, organizing this and have us have some fun here together. And let's come back in the new year.
absolutely. So in the meantime, take care, stay well, be safe, and we'll see you next year.